I'm looking at the center and wondering if there's dancing on transition day that I wasn't aware of. Good afternoon, dear friends, and welcome to the Rotary Club of York, the 26th largest Rotary Club in the world, and a club dedicated to imagining and living out the Rotary motto of service above self. For the next few minutes, at least, I am Glenn Miller, your club president. Our opening song, The Star-Spangled Banner, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Cal Weary. Our invocation will be led by well, he's not here, so it'll be a mystery. You'll just see who leads the invocation today. And our visitors and visiting Rotarians will be introduced by Teresa Gregory. Please take a moment to silence your electronic devices.
Rotarians, please join me. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight all the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? There it is. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is what they meant by other duties when you chair the invocation committee. It's not such a mystery, is it? Let us prepare ourselves in the way we're most accustomed for prayer. God our Father, you tell us that in everything there is a season, and everything there is a time under heaven in which it matters. As we change our leadership today, we are grateful for the leadership of President Glenn Miller, and we're joyous and excited for the leadership of our President-elect, Aaron Jacobs. We thank you for this time to gather as Rotarians, to gather freely, and to express our beliefs and our values. We thank you for the food that has been prepared for us. May we use it to nourish our bodies. We thank you for the hands that have served it. And may we continue to use this food to serve above ourselves in this community. And it's in the many names we call you. Amen.
Good afternoon. I am pleased to have the honor of introducing our guest for today's meeting. When I call your name, please stand and remain standing until President Glenn, for the last time, has welcomed you. Visiting Rotarian Carl Jacobs from the North York Rotary, and also Aaron's father. There's going to be a theme here. Abby Jacobs, guest of President-elect Aaron Jacobs. Maxwell Jacobs, guest of President-elect Aaron Jacobs. Samantha Jacobs, guest of, yes, President-elect Aaron Jacobs. Michael Helfrich, guest of President-elect Aaron Jacobs. Peggy Jacobs, guest of President-elect Aaron Jacobs. Tom Landis, guest of President-elect Aaron Jacobs. Janelle Weaver, guest of President-elect Aaron Jacobs. Brianna Mink, guest of Brittany Beam. Stephen Doria, guest of Tom Caltagirone. Lauren Sheehy, guest of President Glenn Miller. Carol Miller, guest of President-elect Glenn Miller. And Steph Weary, guest of Cal Weary.
You'll notice you get a lot more guests when you're the incoming president than when you're the outgoing president. Friends, we are delighted to have you here today. We hope that you will enjoy the program, which today is the Glenn and Aaron Show. And I trust that you have already been enjoying the lively fellowship of diverse community leaders who surround you at these tables. I hope that you'll continue to visit with us often and perhaps even consider joining our ranks. Rotarians, please help me welcome our visiting Rotarian and visitors. Please be seated. I was also briefly referred to there as President-elect. In the words of a previous president, I shall not seek and will not accept. Several announcements before we continue. The IDEA committee will meet on July the 10th at 8 a.m. via Zoom. We have a couple of farewells to acknowledge today, and unfortunately, I don't think either of them are with us, but I wanted to do this today as not only my final day as president, but I have learned that it's also the last day that we will have as a member Rotarian Bob Bacon. Bob was to be here today. We heard last week, but I don't think he made it. He and his wife are leaving the community in retirement. Bob has been a Rotarian for 10 years, and we will sorely miss him. And we also learned this week of the resignation of Carl Salad, who is stepping back due to health issues. Carl is 93 years old and has been in Rotary since 1967, 56 years a member of this club. These are sore losses indeed. The condolence of the club are extended to Jane Schussler on the death of her mother, Virginia Stiglitz. Virginia was 100 years old. Jane, our deep sympathy and love to you and to your family. And some extraordinarily happy news to share today. Honorary Rotarian Loretta Claiborne recently took the gold medal in tennis singles at the Special Olympic World Games in Berlin, Germany. You heard that right, gold medalist. The club joins our entire community in congratulating Loretta for her accomplishment and for doing us proud here in York. And I learned through Brian that she will be with us in a couple of weeks at a meeting, so we can give her personal congratulations when that time comes. And with that, it is now time for the changing of the guard. For those of you who remember the radio storyteller Garrison Keillor, he would always begin his weekly monologues by saying, well, it's been a quiet week in Lake Wobegon, my hometown. Well, reflecting on the past year as your president, it has been anything but a quiet year here in our home club. As cliche as it may sound, it is truly hard for me to believe that 12 months have passed since the last changing of the guard, in part because of how full and rich this past year has been for us, and certainly for me personally. My own wiring is usually to be more interested in looking forward than in looking back. But there is value in looking back, of course. And for us, there is an annual tradition of doing so, and I'm not about to tamper with that tradition on my last day. I don't have a fancy video montage or a lot of slides to share, but I do want to reflect just a bit on a few key things from the past 12 months from my observations. So first, and joyfully, it was in many respects our first full year after COVID. It has been especially gratifying to be back in person in the fullest sense of the word. And of course, what a special joy it was to be back at the Yorktown Hotel a few months ago. It really did seem like old times. When I think of my year as your leader, I am all the more appreciative of the enormous challenge that Presidents Josh, Ann, and Jackie had in leading us through those troubled waters. As many of us noted during that crisis, whatever normal would end up being when it was done, it would not be the same as life before COVID. That has turned out to be true on multiple levels, and it's reflected this very day, as it has been week after week, by not only our gathering here in person, thanks be to God, but the gathering of many Rotarians who join us every week now electronically. We even now have a thing called a hybrid membership, where you can be a part of this club and never show up in person, but only show up on Zoom, something none of us could have even imagined just a few years ago. We also changed a few things in this year. And I know the C word, none of us like that. Very few of us relish change, especially in places like our Rotary Club, where we cherish, and rightly so, many of our longstanding traditions. But I hope as the years go by, we and those who follow us will look back on at least most of the changes we made this year and in others and say, yes, that was a good and necessary thing, and ultimately a good thing that made our club stronger and better. I can only hope so. We changed a few of our processes this past year. We changed our process for nominating board members and officers, creating for the first time a formal nominating committee structure chaired by a past president and made up of diverse members of our club, who will ensure that our leadership is comprised of a balance of backgrounds, skills, genders, and business versus not-for-profit experience. We changed other things in our office and our structure. We've streamlined our finances, and I want to give a special word of thanks to our treasurer, Doug Berman, who's worked closely with Lynn in streamlining and improving so much of what we do that you never really see. It's all behind the scenes, but terribly important, and it was an important thing for us to get straight on. We lost Rotarians this past year. We lost some due to retirements, to moving out of the country, or out of the state, to other life changes. And in one case this past year, we lost a Rotarian to death, our beloved friend Jim May. The saying is true and certain: we stand on the shoulders of giants, and we lost some this year. We also gained some wonderful new members. If you have joined this club within the last 12 months, would you mind standing for a moment? Yeah, let's do that. You may be seated. That's not all 31 of the members that we took in. And by the way, that's not a net gain, unfortunately. I wish it was. But it's worth noting, speaking of changes, that we gained many of those members by being intentional in recruiting. This was an effort begun in earnest during President Jackie's year, and it continued throughout this year. In the old days, our recruitment method was to simply sit back and wait for new members to show up. And that system worked pretty well for a long time. People, fortunately, did show up. But things have changed, not just in our club, but in the world over. We've come to understand that growth and progress in any organization happens by careful planning and by faithful follow-through. And that's what's happening in our club today, resulting not just in new members in numbers, but also new members that reflect the breadth and the depth of diversity of men and women in our community. My special thanks to the IDEA committee, to our membership committee, and to several key individuals who made it their personal mission to bring new people into the organization. That system is working, thanks be to God. We also this year began and have nearly completed a fresh strategic planning process. That process, which you will be hearing the results of in the coming months, has sought to recognize the world and the community that we're actually living in today, post-COVID, and align the great work that we already do and that we need to do with carefully thought out strategic priorities. I'm truly excited about this process. I've seen firsthand the work that was done throughout the year, and I'm excited about where it will lead us. All I'll say beyond that is stay tuned. In every year of our existence, we raised significant charitable dollars channeled through our Rotary York Foundation, formerly the CEF. It was, in fact, a banner year in which we raised over $150,000 in new money. And by the way, it bears noting that that was during a year when nationally charitable giving was significantly down. And we distributed over $190,000 between those new funds and the proceeds of our endowed funds. We raised funds to support our police chief's vision for a new youth center in the city, as well as in support of dozens of other causes that were carefully selected by our committees and leadership. Some things that are longstanding, some things that are new, all great causes worthy of our support. And as in every year, we had great programs this year. The caliber and quality of our programs is truly a signature element of the Rotary Club of York. My thanks again to Mike Summers and his terrific committee. It was the perfect balance this year of themes, business interests, not-for-profit interests, and community interests. Fabulous programs, with the possible exception of today. Sorry, I mean, if you're really enjoying this, then I'll take that back. Today, wrong slide. Today, we are 279 members. We are business leaders and not-for-profit leaders. We are civic leaders and government leaders. We are men and women. We are people of color, people of differing ethnic, cultural, business, religious, and sexual orientation backgrounds. And in all of it, my friends, we are Rotarians, living out the four-way test, living out service above self, and doing it in this remarkable, beloved club that we all cherish and love. Lynn thought that since it's what we've been doing all year, these closing Imagine slides, so these closing quotes focused on the international theme of Imagine, that I should choose a final quote for today, even though we have a little more program left. And here's my closing quote. This is a changing world. We must be prepared to change with it. The story of Rotary will have to be written again and again. Now, that doesn't contain the word imagine, but I'm going to give it to you now. Imagine who said that and when. Those are not my words. That was none other than Paul Harris in 1935, just 30 years into the existence of Rotary. After starting this organization with a small group of leaders in Chicago, remarkable foresight and vision that we are living out today. In closing, I want to say a few personal words. First, the president of this club gets a lot of credit for things, but the fact of the matter is that nearly everything good that happens here is the result of the work of others. We have a tremendous board of directors, dedicated committees and committee chairs, hardworking, generous members. It has been your year every bit as much or more than my year, and I am very grateful to have been your partner in this work. I want to say a special word of thanks to the board and to my fellow officers for their tremendous support throughout the year. We spent a lot of time with each other, We've gotten to know each other and cherish each other. I want to thank my immediate predecessors, particularly Jackie Summers and Ann Druck, both for all that you did before my year and handing me something in such great shape, and for your constant support of me throughout this year. I want to single out Lynn Morrison. Lynn has been every Rotary president's dream partner. She does a fabulous job of running the day-to-day operations of the club, and in particular, supporting the president so that he or she can look good. Lynn, I will miss our 27 weekly phone calls and our 94 email exchanges and 72 text exchanges. Well, sort of. As I did 12 months ago, I want to thank York College of Pennsylvania for their generous support of my taking on this role, allowing me to take the time I needed to give to the job. And to my wife, Carol, who is here, who was gracious as always when I said another yes to an invitation to serve. And finally, to each one of you, throughout the decades of my professional life, I have had the opportunity and privilege to serve in many organizations, to serve on over a dozen boards and serve as chair or president of several of those. I am not exaggerating. It is not hyperbole when I say that I have had no greater or higher privilege than what you bestowed upon me a year ago in serving you as your president. I told you a year ago that my grand vision for the year was to not screw things up too badly, to at least maintain the sacred trust that had been handed to me. I hope that I at least cleared that bar. From the bottom of my heart, my thanks. Thank you. Thank you. And now let me get back on track. As I just said, I've had the joy of serving with a tremendous group of board leaders. As we make our annual tradition of leadership, it's my privilege to acknowledge our outgoing board members. They are Alan Roth, JT Hand, and past President Jackie Summers. I know that JT could not be here today. Do we have Alan? And I know we have Jackie. If whoever is here among that group of three, would you stand, please? All right, 1 out of 3. I also want to acknowledge as a group our outgoing committee chairs. If you are ending your time of serving as committee chair, would you please rise so that we can acknowledge you? Well, excellent, Aaron, you're maintaining everybody. That's very good. All right, we'll just applaud for your service. Thank you for continuing your service. Like many of you, I'm sure I've had the experience before of serving in a role for a time and then handing that role off to another. It's always bittersweet, but that's tempered when you know that things will be in good hands with your successor. In the past year, I have come to know our new president very well. We will be well served by Aaron, by the energy, passion, enthusiasm, and integrity that I know that he brings to this office. And so it is now my pleasure to welcome to the podium fellow Rotarian Cal Weary, who will formally introduce our new president. Cal.
Without deviation from the norm, progress is not possible. Information is not knowledge. These are the words of Frank Zappa. beloved musician and activist from our country that Aaron Jacobs loves. I will say to you that there are a lot of things that I can tell you about Aaron Jacobs that you may not know, and I'm going to say those things and some things that you do. As I look upon this gentleman, I have to say that I'm going to try to get through this without, if you can imagine someone being emotional about somebody, I do get that way about him. Here's some highlights. He's a graduate of the York High William Penn Bearcats. He has a master's degree in finance from York College, Pennsylvania. He was the CEO and creator and the guy who made all the buttons for Nolo Records. They worked with numerous local musicians. He spent 14 and a half years in a band called Eden Park with an amazingly beautiful man who stands before you. We actually met at York College. Well, we met before that, but we met at York College. We did kind of. Well, we got to know each other in the radio station at York College. Okay, there it is. He gave me a ride home once. When it comes to blood donation, this guy's got 48 gallons out there and counting. We always used to laugh about it because it seemed if he wasn't at a show, he was donating blood somewhere. So obviously 48 gallons is a lot. Maybe some of you have some of it. So he's not going to ask for it back. Don't worry. St. Paul's Lutheran Church. He is an active member there. He sings on the choir and he's a past council president. For PPE, he was the chair for 10 years. He did projects including Kiwanis Lake, York City Tree Fund, almost 900 trees planted. I'm going to come back to that. Raised over $500,000 for the Rotary projects there. York City Parks Conservancy. He's on the board of directors there. Scorecard is his company. He helps. There you go. He helps. It's his personal business that he helps companies increase their sales. That's created by him. He has a mobile app. The business is growing, and he wrote the book Controlling the Sale. Susquehanna Score. He's a member of that. He helps mentor local businesses. He's a proud resident of York City. He lives right in the city in the historic Newton Square. He's on the executive committee and he's active in various citywide projects. And he's been a member of this Rotary for 15 years, a member with perfect attendance, 2 Sapphire Paul Harris Fellows, and the 1741 Legacy Society member for charitable contributions. Besides those accolades, he is also a devoted father to Max and Sammy. He's a faithful husband to my good friend Abby, who I knew before he married her. I tried to stop her. He's a grateful son to Peggy and Carl, who are also very close to me too. He's a loyal friend. So this is the part that I don't look here for. Many years ago, my grandfather passed away. It was a tough time. It's very close to him. He was the closest thing to a father figure that I had in my life. And I remember thinking, how will I remember him in a proper way? It was on my mind. It was a sleepless night. I remember waking up early the next morning. I lived in the city at the time. And when I walked out onto my little deck in the back of my house, I looked over to the side and there had been planted a cherry blossom tree. Before the sun even came up, my good friend Aaron Jacobs had come to my home and dug a hole and planted a tree in remembrance of my grandfather. As you can imagine, I called the police. Because, of course, he dug a hole in my property. The irony is of this is the funny part, because he loves to plant trees, obviously, like a little Johnny Appleseed. I planned that day to build a deck in the exact same spot. All the materials were actually sitting off to the side. He had no clue. So I had to dig the tree up and move it to a different spot. And then I built the deck. The important part about this is that tree still grows and flourishes right in New York City. It's huge and it has these beautiful blossoms that come back every year. You can't kick a lion down. And that's a lion and a king right there. And I appreciate him for all of the things that he's done for me and what he's done for our city, for our community, and for this very Rotary Club. He's a friend to this club. He really loves it. For many years, he tried to get me to be a part of it, and I just didn't see it through until Bob Pulo forced me to do it. But I'm so glad to be here, and I'm so glad that he's a part of it and that I get to see this change happen. My friend, my best man. And you know, I didn't go through any of my slides. You know, I was that locked in. Let's just go through these real quick. That's Aaron Jacobs right there. That's me and Aaron with my red hotel jacket. That's us in our old rock band. See, I took off the hair so no one sees it. There's Aaron singing, something he loves to do up here. There's us when you were born. That's us, my wife, and all of us hanging out with my kids. Some of you know them. There's Aaron by the water. I had to talk him out of it. He was going to go swimming. He loves it in there. There's Aaron as a cartoon, planting a tree. I thought that would be important for everyone to see that as much as he loves that. And there's Aaron standing on the deck of his boat. That's where all the money's been filtered through from the Rotary, in case you were wondering. All those trees you thought he planted, it turns out it was all for this yacht that he purchased. And as I said, my friend, my best man, my president, Aaron Jacobs. Give him a round of applause, folks.
You picked the right man to introduce you, sir. President. Aaron Jacobs, do you solemnly pledge to fulfill the duties of the office of President of the Rotary Club of York to the best of your ability, to advance the purposes of Rotary, and to abide by the Rotary motto of service above self? If so, answer, I do.
I do.
I hereby declare you installed as the President of the Rotary Club of York. Sir, I am relieved. On multiple levels. Mr. President, the podium is yours. If you have half as much joy in your year as I have, you will have a splendid year ahead of you. All the best.
Thank you all. Thank you, past President Glenn. It is my pleasure as my first action of president to present you with the past president's pin and the flag. Ooh. This is on behalf of myself, the club, and its leadership. We thank you for a tremendous year filled with great memories and success. May you enjoy your new status of past president, and we hope that you see your legacy to this club sustained for years to come. Mr. Past President.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You are relieved. At this time, I'd like to install the new officers for the 23-24 year. When I call your name, please stand where you are. Courtney Piccolo, President-elect. Wilda Reem Alessi, President-elect nominee. And Doug Berman, who could not be with us here today. Officers, do you understand the charges of the office to which you are elected? And will you work with diligence for the betterment of the club? If so, answer, I do. I hereby declare you as officers of the Rotary Club of York for the Rotary year 2023-24. You may be seated, and they will serve, yes. Just a note, they will serve along with past President Glenn Miller and myself as the executive committee. And at this time, I'd like to install the new directors. If you may stand where you are when I call your name, Elaine Bonneau and Kelly Gibson. There's Kelly, there's Elaine. Hi. Do you each solemnly pledge to fulfill the duties as a director to the best of your ability, to advance the purposes of Rotary, and abide by the Rotary motto, service above self? If so, answer, I do. I hereby declare you installed as directors of the Rotary Club of York. Congratulations. I also want to take a moment and acknowledge those directors who are continuing on in this year. Dee Baker, Bill Hartman, Jen May, Joe Mummert, Jules Tolbert, and Calvin Weary. Thank you for your previous service and your continued service to the club. Calvin, you got me all worked up. Rotarians, let's welcome them back. All right, Rotarians, it is a great day to be a Rotarian. Rotarians, friends, and special guests, what an honor it is to be called to be the 107th president of this great Rotary Club of York. I have been excited about this opportunity ever since I got the call from Brian Tate on a cool December afternoon, to which I initially responded with, wow, let me think about it. What was I thinking? What were they thinking? What was there to think about, though? I've always thought of myself as a ferocious Rotarian, and this chance only comes once in a lifetime to only a handful of members of this club. Why me, I thought? Did they get so desperate that they scraped through the bottom of the barrel to pull my name? Well, Brian assured me that I was the right person for this job, and after all, who can say no to Brian Tate? So, of course, I said yes. However, I did find it concerning that immediately it was announced that I was in succession to be president, the very next announcement was the retirement of our executive coordinator, Bert Oberdick. Very interesting. Go figure, and so noted. This, of course, caused me to reflect on what led me to the Rotary Club of York in the first place. How did I get to this point, and where will we go from here? The man responsible for making me a member of this club was our very own past district governor, Ben Hoover. And I recall, Ben, when we had a discussion about Rotary in March of 2008 at the York Flower Show, and before I knew it, Ben had a membership application in my hand. But why did I even want to be a member of this club? Well, for one, like many of you, I wanted more professional networking opportunities. Let there be no doubt about that. And yet there was something much bigger that I sensed from this organization. Was it the caliber of membership? Was it the service projects? Was it the quality of the programs, or, of course, the quality of the food? Well, of course it was. But I think the culture of this Rotary Club drew me into its orbit like so much gravity. Despite that there's hundreds and hundreds of members of this club, I immediately felt like I was home. But there's another part to this story that starts before my conversation with Ben. And in case you did not know, I am a second-generation Rotarian. My father, Carl Jacobs, is both a charter member and an active member of the York North Rotary Club. And it will come to no surprise to other multi-generational Rotarians that I have seen service above self role modeled in my father. I have always admired my father. Many of you have trees and shrubs in your yards that were either planted or provided or pruned by my father, and I inherited his love of horticulture. Hint, why do you think this club plants so many trees in the city? I've seen him serve many years as York City Councilman, which helped to inspire my love for York City. As a prolific White Rose Toastmaster, he challenged me to develop my leadership and speaking skills so that I might be a better servant to the community and to the service projects. My father has shaped me more than he will ever know. Suffice to say that I probably would not be a Rotarian today were it not for Carl Jacobs. Because of my dad, I have a passion for York City, trees, and Rotary. Thank you, Dad. But I've always boasted that this Rotary Club has done more for me, both personally and professionally, than any organization I've ever belonged to before. In some ways, Rotary to me is like my church service in the middle of the week. We have our fellowship, our prayer, our song, our homily. Every Wednesday, right in the middle of the week, sometimes when I need it the most. But just as important, it's a break in the middle of my work week where I can put my troubles aside and spend time with you, a community that I care about and cares about me. And knowing that when the last bell has rung at the meeting, you're on the last half of your week. In the hour and a half that I spend each Wednesday with all of you here at the club, I get to cultivate new and existing relationships that have shaped and challenged my professionalism and my community service, especially when it comes to the Preserve Planet Earth Committee. And this is where I want to give a big shout out to the PPE committee, especially past President Al Sykes. Al recognized my leadership potential early on when he asked me to take his place as committee chair for PPE over 10 years ago, when he was going to be president of the club. He gave me my first chance at this level of service and supported me all through those years, and he continues to support me. He continues to support the PPE committee as well as several other committees and community service. Al Sykes, like so many of you, modeled for me what it means to be a true York Rotarian. And since then, this club has fully supported my ideas, my ambitions for community service and projects in the city of York. And I also have to thank the city of York for being such a great partner with myself, this club, and PPE. This club and its members inspire me to believe that anything is possible. Any great project, no matter how ambitious, can be done through the teamwork of York Rotarians. And I am proud to say that together we have planted not just 900 trees, but almost 1,000 trees in York City. We've removed significant amounts of trash, and we fixed Kiwanis Lake. Good job, York Rotary. I also want to mention what a privilege it's been to serve and be supported by our executive committee, our treasurer, Doug Berman, president-elect Courtney Piccolo, past president Jackie Summers, and let me again be the first to address past president Glenn Miller. Glenn, I commend you on a tremendous year of success and for being such a great leader to this club. You have kept us as straight as an arrow, and I personally appreciate all the time and support you have given me over the past year. Let's have another round of applause for past president Glenn Miller. And Lynn, I cannot say enough about our executive director, Lynn, who puts a lot of time and heart into this club and its leadership and its mission. We are truly blessed to have such fine leadership in this club. So, what does it mean and where is it all going? What kind of year do we have ahead of us? Well, I'm pleased that the recent presidents who have served before me took care of all the hard stuff. COVID, moving from the hotel to the country club, transitioning to a new executive director. Thank you, past presidents, Josh and Jackie and Glenn, for getting us through all of that. And now it's time to look to the future, as we have worked very hard over the past year to bring some exciting new projects and initiatives. So, one to revisit is the mentor program. I'm excited that we're going to continue the mentor program. That's members engaging new talent of Rotary. We will continue to build upon the work of the membership committee and the mentors to grow and sustain membership, because membership is very important to me. Thank you to all the mentors who have helped with this and make this successful. Glenn mentioned this, and I'm going to say it again. Several of us have been working to develop the new strategic plan for this club, and we hope to share and implement this. Thank you, past President Glenn, Rich Randall, and the committee who've worked very hard to create a new mission, vision, strategies, and goals. We expect this to help strengthen our club and the community that it serves. Another thing that we can look forward to is a program to help our committees, because it is our committees that bring our vision and mission to life. I have in recent months met with all of our committee chairs and attended most of the committee meetings. And three things to me have become abundantly clear. Many committees are looking for new committee members. They want to have new projects and they want more time at the podium to talk about what the committee does. So I am pleased to announce now the President's Challenge, which is a program designed to shine a spotlight on our committee work to challenge both our members and our committees to get new members, to bring new ideas to life, and to get people more aware of what our committees do. And by the way, not to mention, we're also going to start refreshing ourselves on the four-way test every week. Be ready for the test. It's also time for this club to level up. And by that, I mean it's time to level up ourselves and level up our community. We'll soon be announcing the Level Up program, which will be an opportunity for our club and its memberships to break down some of the barriers that our membership has for the community leaders so that we can continue to grow our club with some of the best people around. More on that later. And now, probably my most exciting news is I am pleased to announce today that we have identified a project for our Love for Community event this year. Thanks to the help of Tom Landis with York City, Mayor Michael Helfrich, the fundraising committees such as Dee Baker and Darren Smith. The Rotary Club of York will be working with the city to redevelop the planters in Continental Squares for major renovations in the upcoming year to continue to create a vibrant downtown for our community while keeping Rotary a strong presence in York City. My vision is to fill Continental Square with York Rotarians and community leaders to help install and dedicate this crucial downtown feature. More on that to come later as well. And last but not least, we will continue to implement the roaming wireless microphone during our weekly program Q&A sessions to eliminate once and for all, can you repeat the question? Applause there, my friends. Thank you. In conclusion, I expect this to be an exciting and ambitious year for both the club as well as my personal life. For those of you who don't know me or haven't figured me out, I like to be bold, lively, and effective. I not only believe in service above self, I believe that service becomes self. That's who we are. We're the Rotary Club of York that serves our city, our community, and our membership. This club believes in me, and I believe in this club. I thank you again for the opportunity to serve as your president for the next year as we live out the new theme to create hope in the world. Let's have a great year. Thank you very much. And we are way ahead of schedule. So I was going to offer Q&A, but we don't have a roaming wireless microphone today. So I'm off the hook. So we're going to wrap up. As a reminder, next week we don't meet. Let me say that again. Next week, it's 4th of July, July 5th. No Rotary meeting next week. Our next meeting will be on July 12th, where we welcome David M. Davidson, Jr., CFO, and Karen E. Fulton, President and CEO of CS Davidson, a York-based engineering firm that is celebrating their 100th year in business. Of course, as John Kleinden's got all over that. Since 1923, they have been helping local municipalities and authorities preserve, manage, and construct a better world. Then just for your information, I will be doing what every great leader does and leave for vacation during my first week of service to this club. Fear not, President-elect Courtney Piccolo will lead the meeting in my absence, and she will be sure to babysit Calvin the entire time to keep him from jumping off the stage. I say it because I love you. I say it because I love you. My friends and Rotarians, thanks for a great meeting. Go do good in the world. This meeting stands adjourned.